The Killers. Boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Yeah, so this new single just came out from Las Vegas rockers.
Vegas? I thought they were from England.
Yeah, most people do. They're not. They're from Vegas. They're called The Killers. They have a new song out called Boy from a forthcoming record. They're cranking them out lately.
Their last album, Pressure Machine, came out about almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah, there was a stretch after Battleborn in like 2012, and then they went away for a while. Mm-hmm. Brandon Flowers, I think, was doing some solo stuff.
Multiple band members were doing, I looked into it a little bit, and they were all kind of doing their own thing for a minute. And I think actually also his mom was really sick.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. And then once they reconvened, they kind of been cranking out records. I haven't really gotten into them, though, and that sort of culminates with this song for me, where I'm just like, kind of the jump ship moment for me.
You didn't listen to any of Pressure Machine, did you?
I heard a bit. I heard a bit of Pressure Machine. I've heard Wonderful, Wonderful, Wonderful.
Okay.
That's a tongue twister of a record
So we've heard
name
like
to say.
different albums. Well, I listened to some of Pressure Machine, but I think we've heard like different albums.
Yeah, I probably because I worked at the record store, so I would just like hear them and be like, okay, yeah. But yeah, let's talk about Boy, which came out a few days ago. I have a lot of thoughts on this song that are kind of hard to articulate. What do you got?
I think we both find it to be very forgettable and
Yeah.
kind of confusing as a song. Personally, I really hate, pretty much just hate the lyrics. Just find them
Which
terrible.
is unfortunate because it's a nice, positive
Good message, yeah.
that is always appreciated. But I agree about the lyrics.
Very bad.
Yeah, but how can you say that? There's a place that exists.
That is my
Period.
my biggest pet peeve with this whole song. There's some bad lyrics in here, but he's encouraging.
God. It's bad.
Stop drinking it. Place that exists. It's clearly a song about encouraging perhaps his young self or maybe one of the other band members. I don't know. I think they usually kind of collaborate on writing that there's something better for them than their small town where diesels dance. Another terrible lyric.
Is that like trucks?
Diesel,
Trucks,
yeah, diesel trucks.
Trucks
I'm
drive by.
guessing.
Sure.
I mean, it's a strong image, but I kind of hate it. And then
Kind of sounds like a truck birthday party.
oh gosh, so many people are not going to get that reference.
Not if I cut to it.
Pick a truck birthday party, everyone's invited. The trucks honk their horns and they get excited.
Okay, we got to get this thought out. Place that exists. So then he's saying, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but even though I listened to it like 4 times,
Yeah, sums up my thoughts on it.
is, hey, boy, it's okay. You're in a small town. It's not good. It's not, I think there's jet-fueled dreams or something are part of
Okay.
it. And he says, don't worry, there's a place that exists. And could you at least just say for you that make it a tiny bit more mysterious? Because there is yep, it exists. Everything exists here.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
It's
Place
not
that
specific.
exists. It's lame. It's a lame
The
lyric.
place that exists could be just as bad.
It's a
because he's not being detailed.
It's like I get what the line means, but what a boring way to say it. And that kind of leads to my overall thoughts on the song, which is it's so forgettable that the second I hear the chorus, it's kind of in one ear, out the other. I don't remember how the chorus goes right after it's done.
It's okay. So can we talk about? There's a lot of bands that do this where they become more and more generic, and it's like the Flanderization of the Killers.
1 second, I left the fan on. It's too loud for the video.
So Flanderization, made famous by The Simpsons. The character becomes a parody of himself. The bands that kind of are still doing a similar thing, but it's just a bad version that's sort of somehow bigger but more generic, I guess, more main, like trying to appeal more generic, or just not capitalizing the things that people like about it and making it more broad.
Yeah, it has the recipe. The elements of the Killer's music are there, but it's not working. The biggest issue for me is melody, actually. I think he's a great songwriter on earlier records, especially their debut, and especially can write a good chorus. Can write a chorus that's instantly stuck in your head. Instantly. And this is so just the polar opposite, where I can't even remember how it went. And, okay, this is going to be a difficult point to articulate, but hear me out. The song makes me think of when you go to karaoke and you sign up for a song because you totally remember how it goes. Oh, yeah, I remember how this goes. I can sing it perfectly. And then you get up there and you like kind of remember how it goes. So you're sort of singing it wrong. You got the words there, but you're coming in a little wonky. That's how this song feels to me, where like I feel like there's a good melody in there somewhere, but they didn't find it. It's like it's not coming in where you'd think it would come in. The chorus isn't hitting where you think it would hit, and it leaves me like almost frustrated. Like I'm like, come on, there's a way better hook in there somewhere.
Yeah, one thing I noticed, so I was listening to some of their older stuff, and one of the first things I did was just like hit, popular songs on Spotify, but I went under Mr. Brightside, and I think somebody told me he's number 2. And listened to a couple When We Were Young and Humans, probably.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I thought, and then somebody, All These Things That I've Done was the
Right.
next one. And I thought, I'm just going to listen to this one for a contrast. I haven't listened to Hot Fuss in a long time. And it comes on and it's like, it's so much better.
Multiple hooks
It's
in that
so
song.
much better.
Like, every line is a memorable hook.
Like, I was listening to the other 2 songs and I'm thinking, yeah, these aren't bad songs. They're kind of fun, like maybe I haven't given them the fair shake. And then that song comes in, and for 2 days I've had that song stuck in my head.
Which begs the question, why rush this record out? If it sounds a little half-baked, if the hook isn't quite there, I mean, at least in our opinion, they just had a record come out a year ago. This could have maybe benefited from some more time in the oven.
I think it's just where they are right now. I actually could not get past, I don't think, a whole song in Pressure Machine.
Okay,
It was,
yeah.
to me, it's just not my thing.
And probably their most boring album cover, correct?
Yeah, and but right before this album came out, they did like a collaboration with Bruce Springsteen. They did a song with him.
Okay.
And so that kind of gives you, and they talk about like the dry, dusty album. And so it was like you're trying to do like a Jersey album or
It's like
something.
an Americana sort of vibe
Yeah.
to the single cover. It's just this like drab black and white picture of him with a mustache. And it's so goes against
Yeah.
what they had going for them iconography wise in the beginning, which was this Vegas look while still being sort of dark. It's like,
What's funny too is like, okay, so I guess I'm not sure when they abandoned the marquee font, which is the wrong move for their album
after
covers.
Battleborn, I believe.
Yeah. And then this one it's like in lights, but it looks like somebody made an Instagram story and they so
Yeah,
it's the
they, like,
guy
moved it
and they
like this.
you know how on Instagram you like make it go to the side of the thing, and then also in a different font, boy is here. Sorry, I was making gesticulation, so I couldn't talk into the mic. But yeah, I only thought of it when I just looked this up, but it really looks like someone just went on Instagram and stuck some words next to a face.
Yeah.
Why is boy in such a different font?
It's very odd.
And it doesn't make sense as an image.
No, it doesn't. One of my biggest gripes is when the imagery and the look of a project doesn't match how the music feels and sounds. And that's one thing they really had going for them early on. They came out of this post-Strokes garage rock revival thing, and they weren't exactly part of that, but I think they would have gotten lumped in a little more if it wasn't for that defining factor of they're from Vegas, They use some of that imagery, their marquee font, which you said was taken from like Elvis.
The Elvis Number Ones album that came out shortly before.
Makes total sense, but there's this hint of darkness, like the dark side of Vegas to it. It was a very cohesive vision, and it really set them apart during that time when like a million bands like this were coming out. They had this sort of more showmanship approach about them. Vegas is very important to this band's identity. So I think to sort of half abandon that is definitely a mistake.
Yeah, they don't feel so. Going back to the intro of the episode, so a lot of people do actually think that the Killers are from England. And I was doing a little research on, everything. We always do these episodes and we're like, we guess we should have looked into that because I don't know. And so like they started in Vegas. They went through a few members, they did some demos, and they were playing around. They got put on the showcase, did not get signed. No American company like managers or labels or whatever wanted to sign them, but there was a British one, a guy from the UK who saw them and brought them over to England, and that's actually where they recorded new demos. They did Mr. Brightside and like a few other ones and released Mr. Brightside over there first before even Hot Fuss was an album, before they got signed by any there was Island Records, Def Jam Records that they were on, and they recorded over there. So I think that part of it is they were kind of brought up in England as an actual band, and I think the other part of it is they were the kind of band that England responded to.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, and he can kind of sound like, if you didn't know, maybe you would guess like, oh, he sounds a little British or something, but really what that comes from is he had a big inspiration in Ian Curtis from Joy Division. And so especially early on, if you look at some of their like early stuff, early live performances, pre-Hot Fuss and stuff, he's like kind of basically doing an Ian Curtis thing.
Yeah, and you get that a lot on the Hot Fuss album too.
Yeah.
Fun fact, the name of the Killers comes from a New Order video. There's a fictional band in it, and on the drum set it says The Killers.
And they even did a pretty good Joy Division cover of Shadow Play. I think it was maybe for the film Control, a film that I love.
Yep, you're right. I forgot about that, but I saw that and that's on their third release is a Rarities album called Sawdust, which is kind of a cool name for a Rarities album.
That is cool. And they're like the perfect band to cover Joy Division. I think it made a lot of sense. It was one of those covers where it's like you kind of just played the song as it was, but it was like they were made for it.
Well, the song was about Joy Division, so I think different from like a band just deciding to release a cover and maybe trying to do something different with it. It made more sense for it to be more of a straight ahead, because usually that kind of annoys me if the cover is just a straight up copy.
It bugs me too. Yeah.
But in this case, it's kind of a different thing.
Yeah. And so, they kind of lose me around Wonderful, Wonderful, I guess. I wasn't crazy about that single, The Man, although I will say this about that song and kind of hammer in my point a little more. The chorus, I haven't heard this song in years. It came out in 2017. The chorus, I can still recall it in a second. I know how that chorus goes. It was stuck in my head. It was a strong, memorable chorus, even though I wasn't a fan of the song. So I think that is really what's missing from this new song, Boy. And I mean, I'm very sort of morbidly curious to listen to the second single. If there's going to be a second single, if their record's just going to come out, I don't know. But I want to hear the hook. Is there still a hook left in him,
Yeah, I mean, going back to comparison-wise, you're listening to Hot Fuss, and the way he sings a lot of times is he kind of like trips over things a lot in like a really cool way, particularly in all these things I've done. There's this part that he just sort of keeps like singing, but like then the phrasing keeps changing. And he does that a lot where you're just going like, oh wow, that's a really neat way to do that, or that's not a standard sounding chorus or whatever.
Yeah.
That song goes into a whole sort of coda that's totally different. Best part of the song, maybe best part of that album. Famously, the I Got Soul, But I'm Not a Soldier. And this is like so like minimal.
Yeah, can you picture a crowd at a festival? Now they are in my mind at least a big festival band. You generally see them as a headliner at least once a summer, like on one of these big festivals, and they're going to bring out Mr. Brightside, all these things that I've done, Human or Dancers or whatever the hell, and everyone's going to sing along. Can you see that crowd singing along to the wonky chorus of Boy?
Yeah, I mean,
It's not like a sing-along thing because there's nothing to grab onto.
and it's not a ballad, and it's not interesting enough to kind of sit in that middle space.
It lacks the power without good. I mean, maybe there was the guitars in this song. I don't really remember there being guitars in this song. If there was, they didn't make an impact on me, but it lacks that power when it's just some synth work.
The drums are so boring.
Yeah, drums are boring, and he's a great drummer, and I know he's still in the band, and especially live, they're all like great performers. So I don't know what happened here. I don't want to sound like we're bashing it, because it's not a good song. And I wouldn't even call it a bad song. I'd call it a forgettable song, and that's worse. In my mind, that's worse. It's one thing to take a big swing and to land flat on your face, but you tried something new and interesting and cool. I can respect that. But just like boring, dinky little synth song with like nothing I can even remember, that's forgettable, and it's worse than bad.
Yeah, I mean, so both of us love Hot Fuss. Great album. And all the middle stuff is kind of just like there to me. I've listened to some of it, but I feel like, that album did the perfect, one of my favorite songs, like maybe ever, is And You're a Star off that album. And there's
Yeah.
a perfect example of a song kind of like this. It's about, I don't even really know what it's about, but it's kind of sitting in the same thematic area. But the lyrics are so weird, and it's so melancholy, and it does this crazy octave up at the end. And every
Turns
time
triumphant.
I listen to it, I'm like, my mind is blown every time I listen to it, and it's so cool. And the fact that this is the same band is hard to reconcile, honestly, in my mind.
Yeah.
Because it's like they're trying to do something like that song, but it's just not.
Andy Your Star, probably my favorite Killers song as well. And yeah, that is a great example because you have minimal in that song and it's still great. They're still showing everything that's great about the Killers in such a minimal part. Then the song explodes triumphantly.
And it doesn't feel like a cheating way to get an emotional response. It's like, nope, this is where the song is going.
It makes sense in the context of the record and the story of that record. This song, I kind of kept waiting for it to explode, and the only thing that got added was even dorkier synths on top of it. So I think we've about covered it, right?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I'm going to give him a break because, talk about a amazing live set if you can see it. I never have, but I've watched it on YouTube, and like there's no denying the power of just like there's such talented performers, and especially Brandon Flowers as a frontman. But yeah, this was just a huge miss for us. Yeah.
Their albums have generally been very successful. Sam's Town was actually more successful than Pressure Machine. Here's another fact for you.
Than Hot Fuss?
Hot Fuss, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sam's Town was sold better.
Than the debut.
But the debut did get them a couple Grammys or Grammy nominations. I think Sam's Town also got some nominations. Okay, so Wonderful Wonderful was their first #1 album in the U.S. Took that long. I think Hot Fuss was like number 7 or 5 was the highest it got, crazily.
Wow.
England freaking loves this band. They can do no wrong. They are the only band to have 7 number ones in a row in the UK.
Jeez.
International band, I think, not any band, but
Wow. That's surprising. That is surprising. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, hey, obviously they're doing something right.
they got their fans. They're not going to cry that we
That we didn't like
made
their
fun
song.
of their song. Hey, you know what? I really love your first album, so thanks for that. And good job entertaining people for all these years.
Yeah. Way to go, Killers.